We are live, so welcome to Transcending Work, Harnessing the Courage to Lead. And this is the second week of this show. And this week, I want to introduce to you a very old friend of mine. Well, she's not very old, sorry. A good friend of mine from a long time ago, Maryam Abisola Adefarati. So, Abby, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, Catherine. I'm so excited to be on your show. Thanks.
It's so wonderful to have you. So, Abby is a seasoned business leader with 20 years' experience in finance, accounting, and auditing, consulting, and project management. She has held several roles of increasing responsibility, including finance director for Coca Cola Nigeria, finance director for Pernod Ricard in Nigeria, commercial finance controller for the West Africa area British American Tobacco, head of tax and treasury for West African area British American Tobacco, etc. It's a long list. She has worked at 3 of the top 4 accounting firms, KPMG, PwC, and is a chartered accountant. So Abby has worked and studied in Europe and Africa over the last 20 years, and she now co-owns a not-for-profit foundation with her husband as well. So this is a very decorated person that we're talking to. So ask your questions as we go. We are looking forward to hearing them. So Abby, the latest news that I had of you before we agreed to do this talk was that you actually were a winner in the African Influencer of the Year award from Tech Times Africa. What was that experience like? How did that come about?
So, Catherine, to be honest, I checked. I only realized that I had been tagged, for this award. So that came to me as a surprise. But as I started to reflect on the nomination, I think a few things, became apparent. The fact that over the years I've been visible on LinkedIn, and I continue to ensure that whatever experiences or exposures that I'm getting, I update my connections. So when I have a new role, a promotion, I would ensure that my connections are aware of it. And I think that my story is one that is very relatable, right? So, the young lady who's just starting out as an accountant looks at my profile and thinks, what, in 20 years, I could also become a finance director. The lady who's thinking about studying in the UK can look at my profile and think, what, it makes sense. I could actually, go and study in the UK and then still come back to Nigeria and get a job, in Nigeria or in Africa. So I think the fact that I've had various experiences, not just in Africa, but in the UK, tells a story that a lot of people can appreciate and understand. A woman can look at my profile and think I'm an accountant, right? But I'm female. I can be a powerful leader. I can grow my career. I can do whatever I want to do, right? I think that's the story that my profile tells, and that's why I believe it influences. The few people that I've been able to influence. It's a relatable story. With my connections, I also try to keep in touch. So, if you send me a really generic email, I may not respond. But if you send me something personal, like a strong resume that resonates with me, I would usually respond. And Catherine, I'm sure you can confirm this, right? We kept in touch on LinkedIn, despite the fact that we had worked together, so many years back. So I would respond to my connections. Sometimes I see a really good resume and I tell them, it's a great resume. I like what you're doing with your career, but I don't have any openings now. But if something comes up, I would reach out. So I think, if I'm going to summarize it, it's the fact that, my story is relatable. It's the story of the young female who wants to grow a finance career that a lot of people can interact with.
No, that's so inspiring. I love that you share that. So tell me a little bit. So we have a bit of a gap, even though we kept in touch, we still have a bit of a gap between 2010, I think it was, or 2009 and now. So tell us how you developed your career since then.
Yeah, I think, Catherine, you played a role in that, right? So, remember when we met in Uganda, I had just come back from the UK and I joined this organization that you were also working for, right? And it was at a time when I hadn't built a brand. I was still trying to build my brand. I was still trying to find myself. I was still so unsure, but I remember connecting with you on that audit, and you were such an inspiration to me. That's the truth. I met this, young lady who was a team lead coming from the United Kingdom, and, I was really excited to be part of the team. But as I interacted with you, for me, it was something that I wanted to aspire to. I felt I had connected with a strong woman who was doing extremely well in our career. And, that helped build my own confidence, right? And then I started to work on building my brand. I think the way that I would summarize my journey since that audit is the fact that, I have worked with really great managers, team leaders like yourself who have supported me. They've sort of shown me the path to how I can progress my career. And the good thing is I've listened, I've taken all your mentorship, your guidance, and I've applied all of those. And, that's why I believe I'm here today. And of course, yes, there's always a God factor, though, faith, religion, whatever it is that we all believe or aspire or get inspired by in our personal lives.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I thank you for the compliments, and you inspired me as well. I remember that audit well, and I remember the surprise on people's faces that I was a Black woman leading the audit. So that was also something they hadn't expected from an international company, right? So I guess maybe this is something that has always, been a topic for you as well as you've grown in your career.
Katherine, I'm not sure we had many Black women leading audits at the time, right? For me, you were the first one leading an international audit. So, when you just see someone that's like you, it inspires you, it does something to you. The reality is, as an African or a Black woman working in a multinational, sometimes, it's a challenge, right? I think we have to work extra hard to prove ourselves.
Yes.
Nothing's taken for granted. And, for us, it's also important that we succeed, because we know that if we blow that opportunity, we're actually closing the door against, people that are coming behind us. So I think that puts some pressure on us, but the reality is, with you, with my own career, we can do it when we try. So I think that's what I would say.
No, that's really good. And I want to ask a question that I think a lot of people have, which is, how have you balanced work and life? Like, how have you made this work? Because you've held some very senior positions for a very long time. You've had a young family. How have you made it work?
Okay. For me, I think, the choice of who your partner is like the first big puzzle that you have to solve, right? So, I'm lucky in the sense that I'm married to a chartered accountant as well, who also
Right.
has a similar profile as I have. So, one night I'm the one who's working late and I have to work till 3 a.m. And then the next night is the one who has to, work all
Yeah.
night, and, I then need to support him. So I think the fact that our profiles are very similar helps. So he understands, the
Yes.
challenges of being in a finance position, and that helps. And then I always lean on all of the support that I can get. For example, I've always lived with my mother-in-law or my mom.
Yeah.
Someone has to be around to support me with the kids, either when I'm traveling, or whether I'm working late, so that my kids always have the guidance that they need, or the support or the attention that they need, even if, I have to be away because of work. So
Yeah.
I lean on all of the support that I can get. And then I think for me, the final one is I only work on things that I enjoy. So if you look at my profile, I've moved around a bit. And
Yeah.
the reason I move is, when it's not working, I always find something that would work, because I prioritize family. So if it gets to the point where, this isn't going to work and it's going to impact my marriage or impact my children, I would always
Yeah.
choose my family first. So that's how I've balanced it.
No, that's great and inspiring to hear. People, it can be done. It actually can be done. All right. So the next question I have for you is, what were the toughest challenges you faced in this journey to become who you are today?
Hmm. So I think for me, the toughest challenges that I've faced, I think the toughest challenges that I've faced, I would say it's the same thing that we've sort of talked about. The fact that I'm African and I've mostly worked with multinationals, so everything's different, right? The accent, sometimes you're communicating and you have to communicate over and over again before people understand the message that you're trying to get across. And the fact that I'm a woman, and that means that I have some other responsibilities that I would prioritize above the work. So like I said, my kids, and all of that. So that for me has been challenging, but like I said, have leveraged on all of the support that I get from family to be able to cope. And I'm also very careful about the organizations that I work for. I'm careful about what they feel about the African talent. I'm careful about what they feel about flexibility. I'm careful about what they feel about respect and diversity. So those are the things that I watch out for. There are challenges, but the reality is sometimes when you choose the right organizations, you would get the support that you need to continue to thrive.
If something isn't going your way, how do you raise the flag?
I shout. Oh my, I shout. Like I shout. I'm like I have the loudest shout ever in the world. So if something isn't going my way, I speak up. I
That is right.
I was never the shy child, right? I was that girl in the room that you would always hear her voice. So, if something isn't going wrong, going right, you would know. I'm totally unpretentious, so I would tell you, right? So if you're my manager, I'm gonna knock on your door and say, hi, can I have 5 minutes of your time? I want to talk to you about something, and why do I believe it's an issue, and how can I help you solve that problem? So yeah, I always speak up.
Nice. Nice. Take note, everyone. So I want to pivot ever so slightly. So we talked a lot about the career and the strengths that you've brought to that career. I want to talk a little bit about life in Nigeria at the moment with COVID and how are people coping. Like I think it's interesting for people to have a richer global view of this, because when we turn on our TVs in the UK, for example, or in the US, I think it feels a bit like a political circus at times. But it's good for people to understand that this is a wide-reaching thing and it's impacting people in different ways.
Okay, I think in Nigeria, I'm going to talk about my experience here, right? And, my views, right? So this is me, sharing my views about COVID. I think we've sort of transitioned between phases. I remember at the outset, that was in March, there was a lot of fear. That's the reality. At that time, my daughter, I have two children. My daughter was in school, in boarding school, when, we heard about the outbreak in Nigeria. Initially we thought it was an isolated event. We had an Italian who had been infected who came into the country. And, there was all of this conversation around, oh no, COVID does not affect Africans or Black people. I don't know if you remember all that, all that story, right? So I wasn't really following the news at this time. And then all of a sudden it became serious. So I remember panicking and, I called my daughter's school and I was like, how can I get my daughter back home? There's an outbreak of COVID, and so I need, and she needs to be with me. Like she can't be in school at this time. So I think at the outset, there was a lot of panic. We weren't sure about the impact that we would have, impact on the economy, impact on jobs, health, the health sector. As most people are aware, we don't have a very advanced health sector in Nigeria. So there were serious concerns around how the hospitals, the medical staff would cope, how they would access the safety equipment that they required, to be able to treat people and all of that. So there was all of that panic at the outset. But I think, as we started to experience it, right, and, we started to see some of the actions taken by the government, be it the state governments. I live in Lagos, and the Lagos state government was extremely active at that time. We had a lot of private sector interventions as well, so there was a lot of education going out to people. So I think that sort of calmed a lot of people down. The reality is the death rate in Nigeria is also very low, like it is in a lot of countries globally as well. And the isolation centers that we have also been very effective in how they have dealt with the virus. So I think, most of the panic have now dissipated. And, the main concern now is getting the economy back, because Nigeria went back into recession again. So now people are focused on, how do I get my business back up? How do I get food on the table for my family and things like that? And so that's what we're still dealing with. Most of the businesses are open again. Even the churches, the schools are reopening. But unfortunately, when you go on the streets, not a lot of people are wearing their masks. So that's that's serious in my mind, right? But the reality is, Nigeria is back up. Yeah.
That's good. And companies and government are able to support people who are in transition at the moment, or how is that working?
Yes, there have been some interventions, some feeding programs, tax incentives, few things have been done, of course, but we all know that it's never enough, right? For that person who has lost their job, and they need to provide for their family. So I think what I would say is, yes, some things have been done, but of course, the gaps or the impact that this has created is far-reaching, and it's difficult for any government or private organization to fully address the issues.
Yeah. So I'm gonna just quickly ask listeners, if you have any questions, this is the time to get them in, because I know they take a while to get typed and then to come through in StreamYard. But I'm going to ask Abby a few more questions around her own mission around sustainability and doing things to support Nigeria. So if you can share with us a bit about your foundation.
Okay. I think my husband and I, when we moved back to Nigeria in 2009, we're this young couple who really felt that we could, make an impact in Africa, in Nigeria. And, those were some of the reasons that we had for coming back home. But, as we got back home, we had a little baby girl, we had new jobs that we had to deal with. So we sort of got lost in, getting the next promotion, passing the next exam or certification, and we weren't really doing much. But I think in 2017, we decided that we wanted to start playing a role, because we realized that, the issues are just enormous, right? So everybody has to be doing something. So what we decided at the time was that we were going to start our own family-funded foundation. We would not collect funds from anyone outside of the family. The funds will be strictly from my husband, myself, and when the kids start building up their savings, they can also chip in. And what does the foundation do? We focus on these areas: poverty alleviation. So we support families that can't pay their children's school fees. We do medicals, and we provide medical support. And this is usually one outreach that we do every year. And in that outreach, we get medical professionals in, we bring them to a town in Akungba in Ondo State, and then they see the villagers. So we provide free drugs, there's food, there's music. It's usually a very fun event. And at that event, we would normally host up over 1,000 people. So we've done it for 3 years now, and that's what we do. So school fees support, and then water projects as well for schools. So some schools in Nigeria do not have access to water. That means that, sanitary facilities are really poor, and sometimes the child has to go back home, when they need to use these facilities. So we decided that we would also provide support with water, and that's what we've been doing. We have a page on Facebook. It's the Babalola Adefarati Foundation page on Facebook, and it has details of some of the projects that we've done, but it still remains funded by the family. For accountability, we want it to be our own fund.
Okay. And so people
Yeah.
cannot support if even they're dying to give you money to support this project.
No, if they want to, they can join any of our events as a volunteer, help us serve food, talk to patients and all of that. Yeah. So we always welcome doctors and all of that, nurses, medical personnel. Yeah.
That is so wonderful and honorable of you, and I really admire what you're doing. I think it's an amazing story that you've shared with us tonight, and I hope my listeners are excited. So we had one comment. Someone is amazed by you. So my dear friend Howard.
Thanks,
So
Howard.
so one other pivot I'm going to make. So there's another interest that I remember you having back in 2010. In fact, I still have it. So you gave me a dress. It was a dress that you had designed or printed or something. So tell us about your interest in fashion.
Oh my. Okay, so my I can't believe you remember that. Okay, so yes, my dad was a fashion designer, and somehow, and then my mom, my dad is late, but my mom is still alive. She is a textile trader, so in that family, like almost everyone loves fashion. I'm like the one person who who isn't into fashion as much as my other siblings. So I have sisters who are also designers or have interest in fashion as well. So I own in my house, it's a small tailoring place in my house. I still have it, and I bring in tailors, they make outfits for people. I think my last role has been challenging, so I haven't, sort of done it as much as I used to because of time. But the reality is, yes, I do love fashion, and it's something that I hope to do a bit more of as time goes by. And now I do food as well. I do catering. I'm a chef. I'm so many different things.
I'm still amazed at how you find the time, woman. It's incredible. It really is. So so
Delegate, delegate.
so the last comment or the last question. So what sort of messages would you like to pass on, not just to our listeners, but maybe even to your kids, to younger folk, to people just graduating from university, etc., around courage and about standing up? What messages would you pass on?
Okay. I think for me, the most important message is you have to believe in yourself. Like, I think I heard this from Lisa Nichols, and I really, it resonates with me. You are your rescue. Like, don't wait for anyone to rescue you. You are going to solve the problems yourself. Don't wait for government. Don't wait for your employers. Don't wait for your husband. Don't wait for anyone. Find the solutions yourself, and those solutions, they're already here, they're in you, right? So if you spend enough time on the problem, you would find the solution. So I think that will be my number one message. My second message is don't underrate hard work, right? And I'm not going to just say hard work, it's smart work, right? So I'm not someone who's spending 24 hours a day working, right? You have to work smart, but do not underestimate it. Like, we're now at the age where a lot of people believe in miracles, without putting in the work, right? But
Yeah.
trust me, the result is in work, right? When you
Yeah.
work hard enough, people will notice, right? And when people notice, you would get the reward that you need. And then finally, trust the process, right? It takes
Yes.
time. you know,
Yes.
this career that I built, it took 20 good years, right? So it will take time. It will take time, but trust the process. At the end of it, whatever your dreams are, you are able to achieve it, and you've got all it takes to achieve it. I think those would be my three key messages.
That's really powerful. I actually I read something on LinkedIn just yesterday, where it was said that Mindy Kaling, the Indian American actress, I think she said something like she doesn't know imposter syndrome because she's always had to work for what she has, right? And I thought that was a brilliant comment because it's true. It's not really something that I suffer from. Yes, I have fears and stuff, but I never think I'm an imposter, and I think that's quite powerful.
Yeah, of course, I totally agree with you.
Yeah. All right. So Howard is happy. So thank you for sharing with us, Howard, and for commenting. We're going to wrap it up today. Abby, stay online. Thank you for watching, and we will have another episode next week, Thursday at 7 p.m. UTC plus one. Looking forward to hosting again, and see you next week. Take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone.